Hey guys, what's up? This is Nikki with Messages from Light. We are known as Ancestors of Light on Facebook. If you have not gone and looked us up on Facebook, please do so. We go live and do live readings at least a few times a week and have a really good conversation going on over there. It's a really good support group and we would love to have you guys as new members. So if you haven't checked us out on Facebook, please make sure you do that. Just search Ancestors of Light and you should see our page pop up. Other than that, today I think what we're going to do is talk a little bit about accountability and what that looks like, because right now, like we've been talking about our shadow work, the thing that goes with that shadow work is accountability and being accountable for yourself and being accountable for what your actions are and being accountable for what you're allowing in your life. And we forget these steps sometimes. We forget what true accountability looks like and feels like and sounds like, because true accountability isn't easy. It isn't fun. It's not comfortable. When we're truly being accountable for ourselves and for our own actions and our own part in things, and we have our own responsibility in it, that can be very painful to have to look at, and a lot of us shrink from that. So we don't do our internal work and we don't do our shadow work the way that we should, because we're too busy trying to not be accountable. We're too busy trying to not feel that guilt and not feel that disappointment in ourselves. We can't do that. We have to be willing to accept that negative within ourselves. We have to be willing to accept our own accountability. And when we don't do that, what happens is we start to lose people in our lives. We start to lose our happiness. We start to lose our joy. We start to lose our friends, our families. People start to walk away. People start to walk away because you're not being accountable. You're not answering for yourself and for your own actions. You are playing a blame game. Well, yeah, I did this, but I only did this because you did such and such. When we do this, we're not being accountable for ourselves. We're not being accountable for what we're doing. We're not taking accountability for what our choices are. See, we can't blame everybody else for what we do. It doesn't work that way. I have never made a choice that I didn't choose to make. I'm not saying I always made good choices. Not saying those choices were always good for me or good for the people around me. But they were still my choices. It was still by my hand. And I have to own that and accept that responsibility. I'm the one that's going to have to answer for those choices that I've made. Not anybody else. And the same goes for each of you. We each have to make our own choices, and we each have to answer for those choices, good and bad. It can't always just be good. When we talk about accountability, a lot of times people mistake saying I'm sorry for being accountable. That's not being accountable. My dad used to say, I'm sorry is what you say when there's an accident, when you bump into somebody, step on their foot. Oh, sorry. That's an accident. It's an unintentional thing. Sorry doesn't work when your action is intentional. Sorry doesn't work when what you're doing is a thought out choice and it's something that you know is going to hurt somebody else. That's not how this works. You have to be accountable, and you have to be accountable for yourself, and you have to be accountable for the things that you're doing, good and bad. If you're doing something that you know is going to hurt somebody and you do it anyway, expect to answer for that hurt. Expect to be held accountable for that hurt, because it's your responsibility. You chose that. It's not enough to look at the people that we hurt and just say sorry. Eventually, they're going to stop accepting that. Eventually, that's not going to be enough. If that's what you're doing, is continually just making bad choices and hurting people and thinking that sorry or buying something or, doing something nice for a day is somehow supposed to fix it, you're about to lose at life. And life will pass you by. Because you see, the people that love you and the people that are in your life and that are close to you, they're there because they choose to be. They love you because they choose to love you. They stick by you because they choose to stick by you. When those people don't feel that what they're putting into your friendship and your relationship is equal to what you are giving, they're going to stop giving. They're going to pull back. And eventually they're going to walk away. Because they're trying to grow and they're trying to be accountable and they're trying to do their part and you aren't. Relationships take work. I don't care what kind of relationship it is. Even your relationship with your best friend or your parents or your siblings or your children, those relationships take work. It takes putting in the effort. It takes standing up and being accountable and saying, you know what? I probably didn't make the best choice there. I should have done that differently. I should have chosen differently. I'm sorry. But then make sure that your actions follow that. Make sure that what you're doing moving forward shows your accountability. If you're saying that you're sorry and you're saying that you understand the damage that you've done and that you understand hurt that you've caused, then step your ass up and change the action. Because if you didn't change the action, you didn't do anything. If you weren't accountable enough to change the behavior, then you weren't accountable. You were just providing lip service. Accountability is fully allowing yourself to feel the damage that you've done, not only to other people, but to yourself. It's allowing yourself to feel the shame and the disappointment in yourself for what you've done to other people, for the hurt that you've caused. If you're noticing that you're creating the same cycles in your life, if you know that you are creating the same problems over and over again, if you know that you are perpetuating the same action over and over again, and all you're doing is saying, I'm sorry, and going back out and doing it again, you're not sorry. You're not. You're not sorry, and you're not accepting your responsibility for the damage that you're doing to yourself or to others or to your relationships. Be accountable. Be accountable. Be an adult. Because you see, that's what it comes down to. As kids, we don't really have to be accountable. And unfortunately, in this day and age, a lot of kids are not held accountable for their actions. And they grow up to be adults that don't know how to be accountable. Because they've never had to be. And that's causing a lot of trauma and a lot of damage. And guess what, guys? I'm seeing it on both sides, and I'm seeing it both ways. I'm seeing people that are stepping up and really willing to be accountable. I'm seeing people that are really willing to look at their actions and really willing to look at the things that they've done and the things that they're doing and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm screwing up. This was dead wrong. I shouldn't have been doing this. I should have changed what my behavior was. And they're actually doing the work. And they're changing the behaviors. And they're fixing their problems. Internally and with the people around them. And then I see these other people who just keep saying, I know. I'm sorry. I screwed up. But that's really what it is. It's sorry, I screwed up, and a shrug of the shoulders, and they're going to go right back out and do the same thing. Because they're not being accountable. They're just blowing off the damage that they're doing to other people and expecting us to take it, because it's what they've been able to do most of their lives. They've never had to be accountable. The hardest thing that you're ever going to have to do is hold someone accountable that doesn't want to be accountable. Doesn't mean you don't do it, though. You hold them accountable. You make them be accountable. Make them be accountable for their actions against you, for their actions to you. If they've hurt you, expect them to be accountable and change those actions. And if they're not, understand what that means. And understand that that means now you have to be accountable. Because if the people that are hurting you aren't willing to be accountable for their actions and change them, then it's time for you to step up and be accountable for what you're willing to allow to be done to you. It's time for you to step up and be accountable for how much you're willing to allow yourself to be hurt and how much you're willing to allow yourself to take someone else's wrongdoings. Accountability goes both ways, and it's not easy. It's not easy to hold people accountable, and it's not easy to hold ourselves accountable, but we've got to. It's what we're here for. It's how we learn, and it's how we grow. We make ourselves accountable, and we make others accountable. If somebody in your life is not being accountable for their behaviors, and they're not truly looking at the way that they're doing people, step up. Love them enough to tell them, hey, you're screwing up. Because let me tell you something, that is love. Love isn't sitting and telling someone they're wonderful all the time. Love is loving somebody enough to tell them when they're screwing up. So love yourself and love the people around you enough to own when you're screwing up and to make them own when they are. And be accountable. Step up and change the action. Whether it's your own action or whether you step up and change what you're allowing other people's actions to do to you. Step up and do the work. Be accountable. Until next time, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.